Welcome. Thank you for joining our webinar today on Math Supplemental Curriculum. We'll get started. I was going to give a few minutes to make sure everybody was able to get in, and we'll get it up and going today. If you have questions during the presentation, if you'll drop those in the question and answer section. We have some teammates that are serving as panelists today. They'll try to answer those as we go along. But if you're joining us today, if you could drop in the chat where you're from. We'd like to hear where you're joining us from throughout Texas. Definitely like to see who all is joining us today. Great. Some familiar locations, people we've talked to. Awesome. Thank you for joining us. So if you're here, congratulations. You're a MSc license awardee. We're thrilled to extend our congratulations to you on the Math Supplemental Curriculum Award grant. This recognition is definitely a testament to your dedication to your students' overall success. Most all of you have come to us through our LASSO 2.0 grant and associated there, and many of you may just be starting. Some of you may have already started and are going, but we wanted to have this kickoff. Most of our participants are starting this semester. Even though we've already had a webinar, we wanted to reposition and re-norm everybody on the next steps with that. Our team consists of more than this, but the primary team managing MSc. Of course, I'm leading the team, the director of Texas Tutoring, Colby Self. Krista Workman, unfortunately, can't be with us today. She primarily manages the LEA interactions, so you may correspond with her through email, sometimes phone calls. She's helping getting license provisions or dealing with adjustment on licenses and providers. And then Isabella Maldonado is on the back end as a panelist today and may help answer questions. She's primarily working with our providers and helping get things set up, but just the overall MSc. So Isa, I don't know if you want to come off and say hi today.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm the project specialist on the Texas Tutoring team and happy to be here.
So definitely takes a team effort. We're here to help you get set up, transition, and work with the providers to get what you need to get up and going, and talk a little bit more about meeting the requirements for student success and positive outcomes here. So the agenda, again, welcome, introductions, congratulations, our objective and initiative overview, a general provider overview, the requirements, closing and next steps, and then we should have time if you have specific questions that you need answered. Again, as I mentioned, if you have questions, there should be at the bottom a question and answer box. We will provide a posting of this recording after we're done in the deck on the LASSO 2.0 website for you to reference. And then, as always, we have our help desk tutoring link where you can ask a specific question. We've been pretty responsive in getting those answers back to you pretty quickly. So hopefully, if you do have specific questions after this, you can fill that out, and we'll try to drop that link in the chat here for you. And it'll also be on the deck if you need it at a later time for reference. So again, provide a quick overview, and many of you may be new to your role in the district, so you're finding out about this grant more today. And many of you may just be picking up where you left off at the end of the year and just want to reorient yourself to the grant requirements. And we also want to provide you a reminder of some upcoming deadlines and deliverables that are grant requirements. And we are going to have an office hour coming up in the coming week to provide individualized supports as needed. So this may not answer your specific question, or it may not meet your needs, but we do want to offer those opportunities as well. So the Math Supplemental Curriculum Initiative is here as a part of LASSO 2.0 grant funding It's total of 25 million, ESSER funded. It is in-kind support only, so there are not additional funds directly to you as a grantee to use on additional services as you see fit, but it is the licenses, and those licenses include the training and support from the providers to set up and implement these math supplemental curriculum licenses. We do have over 200 LEAs currently, so that's excited and ready for launch. Some of you may have already started. Many of you have already kicked off for the summer or spring of last year. Many of you have elected to start this coming fall, and so that's why we're here, getting up and ready to go. So of course, the purpose is to provide the high quality supplemental curriculum for pre-K through 12. We do have 6 providers that do span pre-K through 12, so we're excited to offer that grade coverage through those grade bands. We do, insist that you provide examples or planning on your part for master scheduling, buy-in by administrators, and information on who's leading the charge at the campus and district level. And we are trending toward this overall implementation of a high fidelity product for different case uses. Launch was spring and this summer. We are in the implementation year, 24-25 school year, and we will have a year 2 implementation that runs through February of 26. Again, funding does expire in February of 2026, so there will be a shorter term for year 2 of the program there as well. So we do have 3 parts trending towards student outcome, as I mentioned, getting leader support and plan for implementation. If you did go through the grant process for LASSO 2.0, superintendent acknowledgement, campus admin, and IT approval were part of that. There is part of the rostering where you do, shortly thereafter you roster, you submit schedules, a high-level data monitoring plan, and how you're going to process that. Participate in vendor-led training is a requirement as well. That's when we say vendors, we often use that interchangeably with providers. So just so you know, that's what we mean. And you request the licenses. Fortunately, we've been able to meet almost all our requests for the vendors selected with some provisions we'll talk about. But that's exciting. And we do have 6 providers to choose from. So there should be a provider that meets the needs for most of our grantees. Next is roster your students, support students getting logged in and supporting that implementation, and then trending towards using the curriculum with fidelity and seeking continuous improvement. Refined implementation, again, monitoring the data, monitoring the access initially, and trending towards those usage targets that align to the STAR impact and efficacy overall. So because the planning, training, and access with high fidelity are necessary to see an improvement, and that's what these products were evaluated on, their efficacy, we will monitor this access and usage, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in the next few slides. So as you can see with the today mark, here's where we are, where we've been. We're in this implementation phase. You'll notice the box that's yellow talks about the renewals. So as we get to the middle of this coming school year 24-25, we are going to be looking at the usage fidelity targets. And I have a chart for you for the different providers that'll show you what is the expected usage. There are more details that you'll need to get from your provider. We do provide a time approximation that was initially given for you to provide to block off scheduling, because we know if you do not have time committed on a weekly basis to commit to using the products or accessing the products, that you will not attain those efficacy standards. We did provide those in the initial planning phases, and you'll see those here shortly. To block that off on your schedule for each of the unique requirements from the provider, we'll be looking at those, and we'll be looking at, is 50% of your licenses, are they trending and meeting those targets for fidelity usage? If they're not, we'll reach out and we'll have a discussion. We'll want to know what are you doing to ensure that 50% of your participants are trending towards that? If not, why not? There is a risk that you could have your licenses reduced. So just be aware of that. That is something we're really looking at. There's also on the other side, if you're maximizing and you're hitting those usage metrics, there is a chance that you could say, I really do need more licenses. And we could say, well, we have allocations elsewhere where we could look at increasing license availability to you as well. So keep that in mind. So the year two prioritization, which I was just talking about, looking at the highest fidelity usage of the products at or above the minimum threshold of 50%. Obviously, if you're not hitting that threshold and you're asking for more licenses, that's going to draw skepticism. We're not even hitting the 50% threshold, but yet you're asking for additional licenses. That's probably going to be a tough allocation on our end to provide. But if you're hitting that and you have a plan of action, we definitely can discuss that. Some examples of fidelity targets are greater than 30 minutes per week or greater than 3 lessons per week, as you'll see with some of our providers. And it's just the rationale. We want to align the dollars spent on licenses with our student outcomes and the purpose of these mass supplemental curricular licenses as well. Just a general overview. This chart has been updated. So if you go to our initial webinar, some of the contact information on the left, just note some of the emails have changed if you're referencing a prior chart. The usage thresholds are basically the same in the approximate time for planning. Again, the usage thresholds, you need to be sure that you're going through the training with your provider and discussing it with them. Just as example, some have puzzles, some have number of lessons per week, and the approximate time is for you to schedule and plan for those as well. See if I can make this visible. Sorry about that. Providers should be reaching out to train all necessary staff and roster students. Providers may have additional deadlines they need to complete before they're able to turn on the license for students. So just be aware of that. And those are unique to the provider that you selected. Just be aware too, providers will need to collect the unique student ID, which is a TSDS, unique 10 student ID. Both are required. That's a requirement we have as part of our analysis for efficacy. So we're trying to just ensure that they're able to get that because of the efficacy studies we're having them conduct on their products. Providers cannot provide more licenses than the LEA was allocated without TEA approval. So you may say, you know, I only asked for 500 licenses, but we're needing 8 due to enrollment increase or other issues that may have occurred. The correct process is you can voice that, but they're not supposed to allocate more licenses than what you've been approved for. But please reach out to us. We're able to look at it, and in most cases we can accommodate, but we really need to authorize those on our end. We have some really tight controls we're trying to maintain, and it's important for us to be able to manage those on our end. Otherwise, the provider potentially cannot be paid for those licenses if they're issued and used. So some of the requirements that are part of the grant that I want you to be aware of, and again, these may be redundant for some of you that have been in the grant already, but for some of you that are new, is just the key commitments and overall guidelines. You are agreeing to the general compliance and fiscal grant guidelines as part of the LASSO 2.0 grant. And those are available on the LASSO 2.0 page as well if you need to review them. So please, these are just a high-level summary. The organizational acknowledgement is just like, hey, everybody's on board. Campus level administrators, the IT director is going to be able to set up, just as an example, Clever. A lot of you may use Clever or ClassLink. They're able to help set that up and get the unique student IDs where or possible provisioned into that. The superintendent, of course, was required for the initial application. There is a designation of an LEA lead sponsor and a campus level lead for wherever the licenses are allocated. We ask that you keep those updated because that's who we'll connect providers to if there's a problem or if we need to reach out. We want to have a direct contact. There's communications that come out for the general LASSO grant we may need to reach out to. So if you can, I know it's hard as turnover occurs. We may be down the list on things that need to be updated, but we do ask you as part of the grant compliance and assurances that you keep us updated as soon as possible. The LEA implementation plan is developed and shared. Schedules for when the licenses are going to be used, that's submitted via Google form. And the student data monitoring plan, again, these are higher level plans that just show us that you're going to be looking at the data, monitoring the usage, and so on and so forth. A $10 required provider training, and including ensuring facilitators are trained as well. This training here is optional, but we are going to put a recording up so that way it's available for you to review. Or if you have new people that are onboarding or new administrators or new campus contacts, they can be familiar with what the requirements are of the grant. Attend request only licenses that will be accessed or used. We are trying to control those numbers to the extent we understand enrollments. These requests were done last year. Your enrollments may have fluctuated. We are allowing some fluctuations with overages or if you're under. So please reach out, discuss with us, be proactive. We can work with you to discuss if we need to adjust those accordingly. Just some general terms that we're using just to norm on rostered. So the student has access to the product through individual group login. Access, the student's logged on the product at least once. That's that access piece we talk about. And usage is the degree at which the student's using or accessing to the fidelity of the product, the dosage fidelity as provided or determined by the provider for efficacy. Just the rostering info, as I mentioned before, they will ask for the 10-digit unique student ID, the TSDS ID. They must also share unique student IDs in the rostering process. They need this from you. So please work with your IT department to ensure that this is part of the rostering process. This is not often shared in Clever or ClassLink, and it has to be selected. It can be done. It just has to be purposefully provided. And the purpose of that is going to be for STAR efficacy studies and linking that data at a later time, which is required of our providers. So first access date, this is important. Many of you should be up and are going or near up and going. We are going to have a snapshot where we look at October 31st to see what has been accessed. Again, going back to the definition, a student has logged into that license at least once. If we see large numbers have not been accessed, there is the potential that a reduction in non-access license or possible removal from a provider selected if zero access has occurred. So be sure to allow time for rostering training before this date so students can log in and access licenses before this time. If there is an anomaly or some issue that arises, please reach out to us directly. We definitely would like to know about that and can consider that as part of that ramp up to the date. And also, if you're late, like you're just adding licenses recently, we do want to hear from you as to what mitigating factors may prevent you from reaching access by this date. But for the most part, this was shared out when the grant kicked off. Almost everybody on this call said they're starting in the fall. They should hit these access deadlines without issue. Just some timelines. TEA office hour is September 19th. So coming up next week, This is for you to come if you have specific questions, unique problems that you need to surface, or just general information is needed. The data monitoring plan submission is by 30 days after your indicated start date. Same for sample schedule submission, 30 days after your start date. And you must access for the first time by October 31st, which is just around the corner. So we're all planning to have students ensure that they've logged in by that date. So we can capture who's logged in and access their licenses and adjust accordingly as needed. So closing and next steps, additional license requests. So we've had quite a few, again, rostering, not rostering, but enrollment changes and other considerations have happened, changes have happened. There may be a need for additional licenses. So if you're interested in additional licenses, please submit a request to the help desk there. And I think we've posted that in the chat. Isa has been gracious to post that in the chat. You can submit a request and we'll consider that and follow up with you on that. Only one provider can be awarded per grade level per campus. So because these are math supplemental curriculum licenses, we're not allowing one student to be licensed under two different math licenses. All licenses allocated need to be accessed and used throughout the duration of the grant. So an example of this is there are several case uses of math supplemental curriculum we did not get into in this webinar. Some may be used as part of a blended learning case. Some are used for supplemental accelerated instruction for tutoring. Some of our providers are on the ratio waiver list. So there may be cases where the licenses have a shorter term use for a particular student, but the expectation is the usage metric is achieved and used throughout the duration of the grant. So licenses aren't used for a 15-hour period as an example for tutoring, and then that license is used up and no longer touched for the duration of the grant. That is not an acceptable case use under this grant. So just keep that in mind. And that again is through February of 2026. If you wish to use EARN or ST Math, the campus must commit to using the campus-wide license with at least a minimum of 225 students. And if you're a smaller campus, less than 375 students, you must have at least 60% of students enrolled in the covered grade levels using the license for that group. That was what we had to do to justify the allocation of a campus-wide license. I think there's been some possible questions on that, so just keep that in mind. Again, the office hours, again, are further technical assistance, help guidance. All of our providers have been very responsive, and I think if you're having questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us, and we definitely can help assist you in that. And LEAs having, examples, and LEAs having trouble completing their data monitoring forms, can attend for assistance, or an LEA wants to ensure the timeline aligns with current district programs, we definitely can assist that as well. The meeting link is here for the September 19th timeline as well. Some reminders, we don't have any particular programs specific to LASSO 3, but there are applications for additional grants coming up. Just want to surface this with you. The October 14th launch will include 11 grants, anticipating award amount of $160 million. So that's exciting. The LASSO 3 webpage is up and the email's available. Again, we're not part of LASSO 3 specifically. There's not a continuation or availability of additional extensions to MSC licenses, but we want to take this opportunity to always provide information or opportunities with that as well. So we wanted to share that with you. So next steps, again, attend the fall office hours, which are optional if needed. Students need to ensure that they're accessing the licenses by October 31st. This is a requirement. And submit your data monitoring plan and sample schedules due no later than 30 days after your start date as a requirement. Again, the reminders just reiterate the 10-digit student unique ID TSDS is required. And if you're, again, interested in additional licenses, please let us know by submitting a ticket via the help desk through the Texas Tutoring Support section. Points of contact. Krista Workman is our primary contact for LEAs. The help desk, Lasso 2 webpage, our calendars on there as well. And the accelerated instruction webpage does have some related information, but the primary source of information will be the help desk, and Krista is available as well. And for general grant questions, if you're part of Lasso and other areas, we often do get other Lasso grant related questions. We're most likely going to direct you to the Lasso 2.0 website. We don't have the depth and knowledge to help you out a lot in the other Lasso grants, but can direct you to the Lasso 2.0 webpage where they have the specifics for each of the other grants you may be a part of as well in that end. Any questions remaining? Looks like Isa is on the back end. Yep. If there's any questions, if you'll post those in the Q&A, we can ensure that was option. I'm going to go ahead and put up our exit ticket, and we'll try to drop that in the chat. We'd appreciate feedback from you on the information provided today while we look at any Q&A information there. If you do have specific questions about your schedule or data monitoring plan, you can get those answered at the office hour next week, the 19th, if you wanted to come and get specific guidance on what to provide or how to. Is this an example? With that, we can look at that. They're pretty broad in regards to that, but we can definitely help with that. I'll go back to 25 for next steps.
And for those of you who have been posting questions in the Q&A, they've all been answered now. So if you've posted a question, please be sure to look at the answered tab of the Q&A to see the answer to your question. And if you're posting questions in the chat, please put them in the Q&A for us. It just captures them better.
Isa, I'm not sure if are you able to post the exit ticket in the chat?
Let me grab it. If we can just we'll stay on for a few minutes for folks as we wrap up answering questions and posting links that people need. Just give me a minute here, please.
And this, the deck and recording we'll post on the Lasso 2 website here shortly. It may not make it up by the end of the day tomorrow, but if not, it'll be posted early next week, and we'll get that up as soon as we can. Thanks, Isa.
Maybe we can look at the Q&A right now and just answer any remaining questions live if we can.
Sure. And a few minutes later, if our license distribution across the district differs from the original application, do we need to update you or just work with our license provider? So I think we did have a slide earlier that said, if you're looking to increase your licenses and you've worked with your provider to do so, we ask that you go through us, because there's been a couple of cases where the providers have on their own increased licenses and they need to be authorized to do so. So I would go ahead and reach out to us through the help desk and just let us know of proposed changes, because we have to pre-approve those. They have to match what ultimately they're going to invoice us for. Otherwise, there's a disconnect and potentially could cause problems with the provider on that. So I would definitely wrap back around with us. Usually it's not a problem, but we need to be sure we're aligned with what was authorized to your LEA with the provider. We're having to ensure we have close accounting for those licenses as well. Do you submit the sample schedules in the same Google form as the data monitoring plan? Isa, I think, are they two separate forms or is it
It's
one?
one form and there's a place to also put your sample schedule there with the data monitoring plan. I believe it's a question that's embedded in that same data monitoring plan and you can upload your schedule there.
Thanks. Is there a link for office hours? I'm not able to pull that out of the deck. I don't know if we could grab that and post that in the chat. I think that's Jennifer's question there.
Let me check on that.
And Paul's asking, is there a link site where the usage requirements are listed? Those are the same in that chart. And again, those are approximations. They're also in the LASSO 2.0 SAPL, state approved provider document on the LASSO 2.0 website. Those are listed there. You'll need to get with your provider because the times there, again, were provided initially as approximations for you to do initial scheduling, but there are some provisions. Example, STMath has both a number of puzzles or time. So you'll need to just be sure that whichever provider you choose, you're aware of what those usage metrics ultimately are. But yes, they will be in the deck. We are posting those, but that chart was initially a higher level overview that does point you to the state approved provider list document that's in the LASSO 2.0 website for Mass Supplemental Curriculum. And those have been there from the beginning. Those haven't changed. And those are directly from the provider themselves. They populated those pages there themselves.
And I would just add that when all of these recordings, when this recording and all of these materials go up, you'll want to use this PowerPoint slide as the updated one. The SAPL one may be a little bit outdated with contacts and also with one of our providers did change their usage criteria. So you'll want to use the material from this slide.
Thanks, Isa, for pointing that out. Yes, we've had some minor updates, and this will be the most updated information.
And then we have a question, is submitting the schedule required or optional? It is required as part of your data monitoring plan. You'll have to answer all of the questions that are in the data monitoring plan, and submitting a schedule is part of the grant requirements. We don't have a template, so you can just submit your sample schedule however works best for you, or you can reach out to our help desk if you if you have specific questions about what needs to be included. And then which provider changed their usage requirements? IXL. Previously it was skills. Now it's students answer 15 questions a week. So they changed it from skills to now 15 questions a week. And that will be, that's in the slide that will be updated on the LASSO 2.0 website. And I see Jennifer is saying that it looks like maybe the schedule, uploading the schedule says it's not required in the form. We'll have to check with Krista on that. She's the one managing all of the grant requirements on the LEA side. I thought it was required as part of the grant, but we can check with Krista. Jennifer Elrod, if you'd like to put your email with your Q&A, if you'd like to put your email, or if you'd like to submit a help desk ticket, if you don't want to have your email in the Q&A, you can submit a help desk ticket and then Krista can get that answered for you about whether the schedule is required to be uploaded or not.
Hi, Kobe. I'd like to answer Nadine's question. regarding IXL because we had that before. So IXL is also part of the HB 1416 ratio waiver list. And so that's very specific to meeting the required hours for accelerated instruction. So for HB 1416 purposes, IXL on the ratio waiver list is recommending in order to meet 30 hours that students use at a minimum IXL twice a week for 30 minutes. And that's just in order to fulfill the 30-hour requirement before the next spring administration.
Thanks for that clarification. So yeah, there is a difference between what you are required to do as part of this math supplemental curriculum grant with your providers, and then just the House Bill 1416. So Alicia just let you know for House Bill 1416 what the requirement is, but when looking at the usage threshold for IXL, it's 15 questions per week as part of the MSC grant.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us today. If you do have specific questions, just to remind you, we do have the office hour coming up next week. Were we able to get that link? I'm not sure if we were able to get that posted, if it is a registration.
Yes, I put it in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Isa. It's in the chat. It's available next week. And or
Oh,
if,
no, sorry. I put it was a question that somebody put in the Q&A. So I answered their question directly. Let me just put it in the chat before we hang up
okay.
so that that's accessible to everybody. The Q&A is accessible to everyone, but let me just put it in the chat just to be sure.
And Alicia, I think there's a Zern question related to 1416. I'll let you take that if you're available to do that.
Sure. Yes, you can continue to use EARN to provide the required accelerated instruction under HB 1416, but you must continue to honor the 4-to-1 ratio requirement. And the direct instruction needs to first be provided by a live in person or virtual tutor, and then you can continue to use EARN as a resource. But you must honor the 4-to-1 ratio requirement unless you secure a parent waiver that will allow the larger group setting to take place.
And Jennifer, if you need more specific cases, just feel free to reach out through the help desk. We'll be happy to hop on a call or give you more clarification if needed on that.
And it looks like the office hours link that's in our slide deck is a link to the actual meeting, not to a registration. So we'll have to get that registration link updated. It's the meeting link, but I think if folks would like a calendar invite, we'll have to get them the registration link. So I will let Krista know that we don't have that registration link right now.
Yeah, it's scheduled now for September 19th from 10 to 11 Central Standard Time.
September 12th, it says in the slide.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, slide 25, if you wanted to go back to sharing that slide.
Well, today's the 12th, so
oh, sorry. Maybe I have an old deck. Sorry about that.
So September 19th from 10 to 11 Central Standard Time. I'll also ask Krista to send the email if possible. It was in the original email that had this invite or this registration in it. It should be in there as well. It may not have been set up as a registration link, so let me send that link there.
And then somebody asked, when was the IXL requirement changed? It just changed recently. We went from skills to 15 questions. So that's the only one of the providers that changed their math supplemental curriculum requirement. The HB 1416 requirements are not affected by that. They stay the same, but math supplemental curriculum usage requirement for IXL changed to 15 questions as opposed to skills.
All right. Well, thank y'all for joining us today. Again, we'll be available through the help desk, or if you have additional questions, you may try joining or visiting the LASSO 2.0 webpage and the office hour next week, September 19th from 10 to 11. We'll try to send out a reminder email as well. So keep those contacts updated where possible. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.